In this video, I want to have a look at how we can identify linear equations. So linear equations are equations that represent straight lines, and non-linear equations are pretty much everything else, but they represent lots of different types of curves. So we know that we've seen a couple of different forms of linear equations, of straight line equations. We've seen them written in gradient intercept form, so y equals mx plus b. We've seen them written in general form, so ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. We've also seen vertical lines, which just have equation x equals some number, and horizontal lines that have y equals some particular number. So all of these things represent straight lines. What doesn't represent straight lines, it can be pretty broad, but it's things like if our x or our y have a power, so it might be squared or cubed or something like that. If our x and y are multiplied together, or if one of them is in the denominator of an equation, if there's a square root sign in there somewhere over the top of the whole thing, there's lots of different things. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at a couple of examples, and then I'm going to show you how you can use graphing software to double check whether you're correct or not. So before we use the graphing software, I've got a whole pile of equations here, and I want to go through each one and determine whether or not it is a linear equation. So if we start with the first one, now it has the y on its own on one side of the equal sign, but the problem here is that this x is in the denominator. So because the x is in the denominator, it is not a linear equation. Now this one here, we've got y equals 3x minus 5. That is a linear equation, and that's in gradient intercept form. So we've got a gradient of 3 and a y-intercept of minus 5. Question C, we've got y equals minus 2x squared plus 3. That one's going to not be a linear equation, so a non-linear equation, and it's because of that squared on the x there, so that one's not. This one's y equals x squared plus 5. Again, our x term is squared, so it will be non-linear. This one here, we've got y equals minus 2 over x. Again, that x is in the denominator, so that's going to be a non-linear equation. This one here, we've got x equals minus 4. Now, this one doesn't have a y in it, but we have seen equations like this. That would be a vertical line that passes through the point x equals minus 4. So that one is a linear equation. This one, again, our x is in the denominator, so that's non-linear. This one has a squared on its x, so that's non-linear as well. This one, we've got 5x plus 3y minus 7 equals 0. This one is linear. It's in general form because it's got everything on one side of the equal sign. The x is positive and they're all whole numbers. This one, we've got a squared again, so that's non-linear. This one, we've got y equals 3x minus 2. That one will be linear, and it's in gradient intercept form again. And this one, we've got xy equals 3. Now, because the x and y are multiplied together, that's going to be non-linear as well. Now, like I said, if you're ever not sure about these, obviously in a test you can't use graphing software, but for now you can. So there's lots of different options, but you guys all have Grapher on your laptop. So if you open Grapher up, just pick the default one. Now, if we were to graph a couple of these, so say we did this one, we could write y equals minus 4 over x and hit enter, and that's going to show us that graph there. If we zoom out, you can see that that is definitely not a straight line. That's what we call a hyperbola. Now, if I want to graph something new, I can press this plus button down the bottom and write new equation. I can also delete this one just by clicking on it and hitting delete. Now, if we wanted to graph, say, this one, we can backspace that and we can write 5x plus 3y minus 7 is equal to 0. And we can see what it graphs there. That should have been a minus. There you go. And you can see that that is going to give us a straight line. So that was a linear one. If we do another one, let's pick one with a squared in it. So let's do this one here. So let's write y equals minus 2x squared. Now to get the squared, I'm going to press shift 6 to get up there. And then I just have to use my arrow to get back out of that power. Plus 3. And that's going to give me this curve here, which is called a parabola. So you can go through and you can type them in just to double check all of your answers to see which ones give you straight lines and which ones don't. But have a go at doing them all without your graphing software first and just use this to check whether you're correctly identifying the linear equations.